The film opens with a gathering of priests and priestesses sitting in great terror before they are beheaded by an unidentified assailant. After they die horrifyingly, their bodies are stripped bare to reveal mysterious old symbols and languages inscribed on their backs. They then have the skin on their backs removed and given to a man who is seated nearby. The action shifts to a Russian convent where a group of nuns are enjoying dinner. Among them, Yulia seems to think and act differently than the other nuns. There are strange and unpleasant noises coming from the convent that night while Yulia is sleeping in her room. Yulia suddenly has a vivid dream in which she sees the priest's skin being used to bind a book by the one-eyed man. This dream leaves her in a daze. She gets severe stomach pain soon after, which makes her run to the bathroom where she throws up blood. The light in the bathroom flickers after this upsetting event, and just as she starts to gather herself, the room goes completely dark. She feels a stomachache again as the room progressively becomes brighter, but just then, the window glass breaks. As she hurries out of the bathroom in pain, she is shocked to see tears pouring from the Mother Mary statue's eyes. Then, she finds slashes on her palms and starts to scream in agony. After the scene changes to St. Petersburg, the bishop tells Father Fox that Yulia has asked him to be there. He says he doesn't believe in exorcisms, though, and turns down the request. He confesses that he is in love with a woman and feels that her unborn kid deserves a real father, thus he wants to go on with his life. Bishop informs him that Yulia is expecting twins, which she says are perfect. She claims that her unborn children communicate with her and that she is aware of one good child and one bad child. He asks him to read it aloud for him, and informs him that since Cardinal Russo is a specialist in ancient languages much like him, he will personally supervise the verification. After Fox tells his sweetheart Laura about Yulia's case, Laura demands that Fox take up the matter since she believes Yulia needs assistance. When Laura explains her impending work trip to Estonia, Fox's initially indifferent attitude shifts and she suggests that he should consider this his last case. Upon Fox's arrival to the convent a few days later, Sister Sniger introduces him to Cardinal Russo, who evidently finds Fox's work and ability highly impressive. He is shown a statue of Mother Mary by Cardinal Russo, who is crying. After inspecting the adjacent water pipeline, Fox speculates that condensation could be the cause of the anomaly. After that, he asks if there have been any further developments since the first report. Yulia won't talk to anyone but him, according to Cardinal. That's when Father Saul shows up, identifying himself as the one-eyed man from the previous scene. When Fox first sees Yulia, he wonders why she has asked to talk to him personally. He is the only one who can stop something horrible from happening, she reveals, having received information from her unborn children that she would not have known otherwise. Fox asks her if she thinks something negative will happen to her. In response, Yulia says they are trying to derail a plan they think they understand better, and he is there by God's will. Then an old nun steps in and pulls Yulia from the discussion. After that, Fox meets with the Cardinal, who shows him images of the same old language and symbols that the Cardinal has never seen before but identifies as cuneiform. The Cardinal thinks the language is secretive and is only used by a select group of Zoroastrian priests, a passage that says, "A virgin will give birth to twin boys, one good, one evil," is discovered by Fox as he studies the pictures. The Antichrist will attempt to murder his brother before the Messiah learns to love. He intends to employ the holy man in conjunction with the parent and the military. Fox, who is dubious about the prophecy, wonders why Yulia hasn't been admitted to a hospital considering her past struggles with mental illness. The Cardinal explains that she saw things as a youngster that she was unable to understand. She was medicated as her parents, physicians, and other witnesses thought she was having hallucinations. The Cardinal, however, thinks that she was indeed witnessing divine visions. Yulia is terrified when she feels movement in her stomach when she is in her room. Abruptly, her room's door opens, revealing Father Saul in front of her. It is at that moment that Yulia is anesthetized and Fox and the Cardinal hear her screams. Later, Fox hears a door opening and someone walking behind him as he makes his way to his room. Motivated by curiosity, he looks into it and finds tracks. Following them, he finds Yulia entering a pond while nude. He charges after her, trying to stop her by jumping into the pond, but she disappears. The next instant, Yulia cries next to him, startling him out of the dream. He is shocked to see two newborn babies floating in the sea. Fox is startled by the unexpected sight of a nun standing in a corner facing a wall when he awakens from his slumber. While escorting the nun back to her own room, Fox observes a figure at the window, indicating that she had seemingly sleepwalked into his chamber. When Fox leaves the room, he hears the Cardinal and Father Saul talking about Yulia's abortion. But because of how far along her pregnancy is, they also discuss how they should kill the babies when they are delivered. Fox approaches the Cardinal and inquires as to why he was sent here after Father Saul departs. In his own words, if they carried out this scheme, he would doom himself to hell. In response, the Cardinal asserts that they have the duty to protect humankind. The Antichrist will return, he says, when humanity is most cut off from God. Fox, nevertheless, asserts that she is only a girl and that she desires these kids. When Fox follows Father Saul, he is horrified to see him leading a group of people in a room in a satanic ceremony. They see him, and they try to get a hold of him. Fox, however, is able to lock them and goes back to the Cardinal to insist that they leave the property. They've all succeeded in making their getaway in a car by the time Father Saul emerges to stop them. After arriving at the train station with the three of them, Fox phones Laura to let her know he needs her assistance. Despite Cardinal purchasing tickets to Kiev, they take a train to Tallinn. With the help of the Cardinal, Yulia gives birth to both of her children after suffering from excruciating abdominal agony. Fox sees the birth, but he soon passes out. An officer comes to check their passports after a while. He looks at the two kids, one is crying, and the other is perfectly still. The cop turns around and begins beating his head on the window glass after the sight gives him a terrible headache. It is only then that Fox begins to regain consciousness. Yulia tells him that she patched him up while he was sleeping and assures him that everything will be well. When Fox notices that both kids are alive, Yulia calls it a miracle and informs him she has given them the names Samuel and Jacob. When they reach the Tallinn station, Fox recognizes the officer he had seen outside the night before. However, Father Saul is at the Kiev station waiting for the three of them. Laura picks the three of them up in Tallinn and takes them to her grandfather's home. The apartment is large, cozy, and furnished with everything they could need, she says, albeit her grandfather had gotten somewhat strange towards the end. After that, Laura leads them to the basement where she explains that as her grandfather became older, he had begun making preparations for the end of the world. The Cardinal remarks about some strange paintings in the basement, and Laura says she thinks her grandfather painted end-of-the-world scenes because he received visions. Laura also cautions them that life traps are probably still in place. Laura looks up and says that her grandfather's death was unexpected when the Cardinal asks about it, and we find out that he hanged himself in the house. After their talk, Laura shows Yulia to her room, where she is overjoyed to see a crib for her kids. Laura is later seen discussing an outbreak with someone. If they are to blame, they must ascertain what is happening. Subsequently, Fox thanks Laura for her help and says they will raise their family in Canada per her recommendation. He also stresses how risky it would be to go back to St. Petersburg. Yulia watches them via the window in the meantime. When Laura leaves, Fox begins to feel lightheaded from the child's cries, and he finally passes out. However, when Father Saul investigates Fox's chamber, he finds journals that contain pictures of Laura. When Yulia examines Fox's wound the next evening after taking off the bandage, they are shocked to see that the wound has completely healed. This is when it really starts to show that they are starting to get attracted to each other. But then a wailing child cuts them off, and Yulia says the kids appear to want them to be together. The Cardinal starts to make more sense of the circumstances and expresses that everything is happening in line with these archaic symbolism. He clarifies that Fox will die in the role of a priest and resurrect as the father of twins. He makes it clear that they need to decide what to do because this isn't a prophecy, but rather an option. The room fills with the sound of a baby's screams only then, and Fox is terrified to find that the newborn is surrounded by snakes. Subsequently, Fox feels someone is following him when he walks to the basement to retrieve something. Nevertheless, the lights abruptly go out as he turns around. He starts to hear whispering nearby, and a few moments later the lights come back on by themselves. However, Father Saul encounters Laura's maid Kataya, who is obviously shocked to see him. when he gets to Laura's house while still looking for Fox. Subsequently, that evening, Fox and Yulia had a dream in which Yulia proposes to him and they engage in sexual activity. She now informs Fox that the child speaks to them in nightmares the next morning. They had the same dream as the man on the train. Like Mary and Joseph, she feels that they were destined to form a family and that they are selected. When the door finally knocks, Fox is startled to discover Laura drenched in blood. She says that she was thrown in the blood by a manufacturing employee. Although it's unexpected, Laura tells him that she has scheduled a trip for Canada early in the morning. The sooner they go, the better for everyone. When Laura comes to see the kids, Yulia gives her a baby to hold. But as soon as Laura sees the baby's face, her smile disappears and she starts crying uncontrollably due to emotional overwhelm, which surprises both Fox and Yulia. Then Laura and Fox get to Laura's house, and as Laura is getting clothing out of her closet for Yulia, it comes out that Father Saul killed Kataya and stashed her body there. Laura, though, is still ignorant of this horrifying discovery. Subsequently, we witness Saul watching her from outside her door as she enters it. Laura quickly comes to the same realization and phones Fox from that location to inform him that someone is outside. Fox switches off the lights and attempts to look outside, but he can't see anyone. Laura tells him she thinks he's just becoming paranoid and apologizes. In the meantime, the Cardinal hears a voice progressively enticing him with promises of wealth and power, asking him to kill the children and rescue many. These voices get progressively more evil. During this period, he also experiences disturbing visions that really upset him. In an attempt to relax, he drinks some water, but when he sees someone outside the window, he is scared. When the Cardinal hears the noises again, he picks up his rifle and follows the suspect into the woods. When he finally meets this person, he says something cryptic like, "You are what you serve." The Cardinal's leg becomes trapped in a trap, and he is filled with fear as he sees his younger self coming toward him. As the Cardinal makes a last-ditch effort to break free of the trap, a pack of wolves starts to surround him. With the promise of relieving his suffering in exchange, his younger self begs him to consent to assist them in killing the child. But the Cardinal spits on him nevertheless, so he flees, and then the wolves attack the Cardinal, making the whole situation even more intense. Laura, Fox, and the cops come at her factory in the meantime. When Fox notices the circumstances there, he tells Laura to get out of there, but Laura makes the decision to go up to the group in an attempt to quiet them. As Fox tries to drag her away, the situation gets worse, and one of the crowd's women shoots Lavradacci passes out right there, and the crowd goes wild. Laura sees a boy come toward them from the crowd as she draws her final breaths. The youngster stands with his hand on Fox's shoulder after Laura dies, and then he disappears the next instant. Fox returns to the cabin after dropping Laura's body off at the hospital, running into Yulia along the way. When she tells him she's looking for the Cardinal, he decides to go on the hunt with her. They discover the wolves who have gorged on the Cardinal's corpse together, carefully retrieving the adjacent NFLE, for drives the wolves away and returns the Cardinal's corpse to the lodge. They then carry out the Cardinal's funeral pyre. Father Saul, who had been pursuing Fox, slips into the cabin as they are working. As Father Saul discovers the kids inside the cabin, he hears a menacing voice that threatens to grant him kingdoms in exchange for killing his brother. The boy, who appears to be a demonic entity, tells Father Saul to point his gun at a different child. Yulia tries to stop Father Saul from doing what he is doing, but Father Saul is able to overcome her and injure her, leaving her comatose. Fox steps in to stop Father Saul from hurting one of the kids as he attempts another evil attempt. They battle, with Father Saul eventually overpowering Fox and demanding that they kill the infant. But Fox takes revenge, ripping out the last of Father Saul's eye. Father Saul is slain in the altercation when Yulia kills him in the midst of the mayhem, neutralizing his danger and keeping the child safe. Given that she knows the rest of Vox Day will eventually find them, Yulia begs Fox to leave. It is at that moment that she sees Laura's grandfather, even if Fox cannot see him, and she feels afraid. They head upstairs to the attic while Laura's granddad gestures upward. Among the paintings they find in the attic is one that Yulia thinks shows them fleeing the monastery. Additionally, there are two paintings, one depicting Laura and her child, the other Russo's death. After that, Yulia gives Fox a painting that symbolizes their common goal. When Fox realizes all of this, he bursts out laughing and declares that the prophecy is true. Wasting his entire life, Yulia claims that since the devil is fighting against them rather than God, the outcome is still up in the air and that the devil may prevail. Fox later has strange visions as a result of the devil starting to control his thoughts. The devil assumes Laura's form and informs him that she has been taken from him. He has been fostering goodness for God at the expense of humanity. She tells him that he is the only one who can preserve humanity and that the fight is still ongoing. He just needs to kill the bad one and then commit suicide to accomplish this. When Yulia abruptly awakens from her slumber, Laura's grandfather is beside her and motions for her to run. After that, Fox bangs on the door and queries Yulia as to why the door is locked. Before he can enter, Yulia flees with the kids as he tries to force open the door. Through sheer determination, Yulia approaches to police officers and asks for their help. But the din of crying kids makes it difficult for them to hear and understand her. When Fox gets there, he murders one of the cops brutally. Then he goes for another cop, making him put down his gun. Fox then goes after Yulia after killing the second officer as well. Fox reassures Yulia that they are God's vessel on Earth and that she is in a better place since they are locked in a dead end. He only intends to kill the evil one, and he already knows which one it is, according to Yulia. Their purpose is to shield the Messiah from this brother. She reminds him that the dream served as a warning. Yulia uses the officer's revolver to shoot Fox after he steals the baby from her and is about to hurl him into the water. Since it was predicted that the priest would eventually pass away and the twins' father would eventually come back to life, Yulia begins reading prayers for him after believing him to be dead. By the end, Yulia informs Fox that love is the only path forward and that they are not meant to know why. Please like and subscribe to my channel and click the bell icon never to miss new video updates.